Hello everyone, I hope you're well. Welcome to week 7 of remote learning. Oof. For this week's task in performing arts, we're going to continue rehearsing for our production of Goldilocks and the Three Bears. Now, because we are in lockdown for the next few weeks, it is really important that you continue to practice while we're at home so that when we do get back to school, you're able to hit the ground running because we won't have very much time to rehearse by the time we do get back to school. We want to make sure that we have everything ready to go. In last week's performing arts task, we discovered that our class will be involved in what's called the promenade. This is where the three bears go for a bit of a walk along the town while they're waiting for their porridge to cool down. Along their walk, they meet lots of different characters. And in last week's performing arts task, we had to mime or demonstrate 3 different characters like that. There was a florist or flower seller, somebody delivering the post, and somebody selling milk. Today, I want us to get into a bit more detail with a character study, looking at what other kinds of characters they might meet as they go for a walk along the street. This walk is going to be choreographed to the music that accompanies that scene. So let's remind ourselves what that music sounds like with a quick listen. So for today's task, you need to complete a character study. This is where you come up with a character, you might come up with multiple characters, that the three bears are going to meet along the street. You need to tell me a little bit about this character, who they are, what their job is, and you also need to act out or show me what kind of actions, what kind of mime, what kind of props you might need. For example, in our 3 examples from last week, if you were the florist, some props you might have would be bunches of flowers. And the way you might act them out is by offering the bunches to the 3 bears. You might show how much they're worth. You might say, oh, they're $3 a bunch. You might collect the money from the 3 bears. If you were the postman, you might have a bag with letters in it. You'd be walking along the street, and as you get to each letterbox, you'd put in a letter. Walking along to the next one, you might greet the 3 bears and say, oh, hello, here are your letters, and give them to them. I'd like you to come up with some new characters. Have a think about who else the 3 bears might meet along the street. As you go walking along the main street of your town, what kinds of people do you see? There might be neighbours, there might be people shopping, there might be newspaper salespeople holding up an issue of the latest copy of the newspaper, trying to sell them. Have a think about what other characters you might see. And what you need to do when you hit record in Seesaw is tell me who your character is. For example, my character is selling newspapers. You need to tell me what kind of props or costumes or activities they'd have. For their props, they'd have a bag of newspapers, they'd be holding one above their head, and they'd be shouting things like, "Newspapers, $3 a copy." When the three bears get to them, they would offer them a newspaper, take the money for the newspaper and give it to them. I want you to get a little bit more creative though. Have a think about who else they might see along their walk and tell me those three things. Who is your character? What kinds of props or costume ideas does your character have? And how do they interact with the three bears when they get to meet them? Then click the little green tick up the top of the screen to submit your work when you're done.